Hello there, and welcome to today's session of Every Mark Matters with Mr. McDonald. Today we are having a little look at Edexcel History, Paper 3, USA Problems at Home and Abroad. And this specific paper is all about the Civil Rights Movement and the War in Vietnam. Our question of the day is explain why there was progress in the Civil Rights Movements in the years 1961 to 1965, and it's a 12-mark question. What we'll do is we'll start by breaking up this exam question into its three components, and then what we'll do is we'll have a look at success criteria, and then we will answer and self-assess our own work. Let's have a quick go then. So the first element that we're going to look at is the command phrase. In this context, it is explain why. What it means is you must present 3 reasons and explain them. Three is really important. If you only do 2 reasons, that means you are capped at 8 marks. Okay, so you must do 3 reasons. Let's look at the second element of this, and that is our focus. Okay, so our focus of the question is progress in the civil rights movement. Oh, I've scored it a little bit out there. In the civil rights movement in the years 1961 to 1965. So why don't you write down the word focus and annotate the word focus with everything you know about progress during this period. Take a pause now, take as long as you need. If you need to have a look at some revision guides or online resources, feel free to do so. Take the time to think about why there are reasons for progress during this period. Press pause, and I'll see you shortly. Okay. Right, so I'm hoping you've taken the time there to look at some resources. I really want to express to you, if you actually don't know the answer to this, it would be better for you to actually look it up rather than to just sort of guess your way through it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knowledge down now. All right, and in essence, what we're aiming to do is, I think the reasons why there are progress is because of the non-violent movement or non-violent. Oh, I'll put a capital N there for no reason. Non-violent direct action. Okay, and remember, that's just basically non-violent, a non-violent peaceful protest. Non-violent. That's what I meant to say. There we go. Okay, and remember, now that I've faffed around and misspelling or making a mess of that. Remember, non-violent direct action is, in essence, that's MLK, isn't it? Alright, and a prime example of that is the March on Birmingham. There's loads of great examples of non-violent direct action. You could refer to the March on Washington. And again, you could refer to Selma or the Freedom Riders. You could refer to the Montgomery bus boycott, but it's not relevant within this question. But if you thought about that, I like your thinking. It's just not within this year, within these years. And remember, predominantly is what happened when any of these events happen, maybe with the exception to March on Washington, is you have got a violent response from the white community. All right, and again, that sort of feeds into maybe one of my other reasons why I think there's progress within this period, and I think it's because this generates sympathy. Remember, MLK and the SCLC, they said don't fight back. And the reason why they say that is because they knew that the press would discriminate against them even more so if they did fight back, because it would look as if they are, they're the perpetrators, they're the ones in the wrong. Okay? And the reason why I'm referring to generating sympathy is because my second reason why I think this is really important, or why there was progress in the civil rights movement, is because of the role of the media. Okay? And I'll say this every single time, but remember, the role of the media is to generate profits. So whether they support an event or not, they are going to cover it. Alright? And a prime example is you've got, during the March on Selma, you have got Bloody Sunday, and that is watched on TV, that is live streamed on TV. Alongside that, with the role of the media, of course, they are at every single event. So again, you've got Birmingham. You have got Washington. You can use the Freedom Rides. The Greensboro sit-ins were just before this, but they were certainly they were certainly influenced, or the media certainly attended the Greensboro sit-ins, but they are all over this. The media is everywhere within this topic. And then I think, in my view, maybe the third most important reason why there was progress is because you've got presidential support. Okay? And we've got two key presidents within these years. Is you've got JFK and you've got Johnson. Johnson. Remember, Johnson actually passes the Civil Rights Act and he passes the Voting Rights Act. He does that because he wants to honour JFK's legacy. JFK actually has met with MLK loads of times. In fairness, the pair of them have. JFK was involved in the James Meredith case. Running out of space here. Okay, so there's loads of possible knowledge that we can use here within our answer. Okay, so what I want to look at now, so we've broken it up, looked at the command phrase, we've looked at the focus of the question where we've annotated what relevant knowledge there is. Let's think about, well, what is this second order concept? What's our final component? And our second order concepts, so I'm just going to write second order concept. You don't need to know these. You don't need to memorize them. You are not going to be tested on these. What second order concepts are is the way that you present your knowledge. It's what's called disciplinary history. And our second order concept in this instance is, we can either use the word progress, but in essence what it is, it's causation. As in, how did your reason lead to progress? So again, what you could do is you could use phrases like, this led to, or this meant that. You could use as a result. Okay, right, a final reminder that this is a 12-mark question. So what that means you must do is you must do 3 paras. You've got to spend 15 minutes writing it. Let's have a quick look at a success criteria before you do have a go at writing it. Alright, so I'm just going to draw my success criteria table down here at the bottom. So I'm going to put a little subheading for success criteria. So this is how the mark scheme is going to score you, and they're going to score you in something called AO1. That is knowledge or facts. And AO2, and that is explanation. Okay, your AO1 and AO2, let me just move my camera down a little bit, will be scored in level 1, 2, 3 and 4. That does not necessarily mean level 1 is grade 1 or level 2 is grade 2. It's just the quality of your answer, and then what happens with the grades is they they basically add all your marks together. Obviously, we are looking for, with Every Mark Matters, the very, very top end. So let's focus only on level 3 and level 4. Okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to look at what we need to do for level 1, for AO1 at level 3, and that is basically 2 facts per para. Okay? For level 4, you need to do 2 precise facts per para. Easy stuff. Alright, in terms of your AO2, is essentially what you need to do is you need to do at least 2 sentences of explanation per para. Okay, that could be a combination. So remember, when you're explaining, you are either saying how or why. Okay, so what you could do is you could do 2 hows. How did the role of the media lead to progress? How did the role of the media lead to the progress at the end of your paragraph? Or you could do, how did the role of media lead to progress? Why did the role of media lead to progress? Alright, and then for level 4 is you need to do 3 sentences of explanation, and that is how, why, so what, and you need to do that at the end of every single paragraph. Okay, so you made your point, you brought in two precise facts for your paragraph for your evidence, and you've gone how, why, so what. And just before you do start, I'll just remind you, how does that work? So because we are looking at causation, we are going to do, so how did your reason, so that would be role of the media, precedence, non-violent direct action, lead to progress. Why, I'll just move my camera down just ever so slightly. Why did your reason lead to progress? So what, again, so what is, sort of, I imagine it to be a sassy teenager, it's why is this reason special? So why is your reason important? Okay, or you could use the word significant. Okay, you could also, if you wanted to, compare your reason to others. Okay, right, 15 minutes. We have broken up the question. We've had a look at what the mark scheme is actually looking for. What you need to do now is put all your phones, your devices away and so on. Make sure you've got a clear understanding of what you're going to write about. You've planned it up in your head, or you planned it up on this piece of paper. You are going to have 15 minutes to have a go at explaining why there was progress in the civil rights movement in the years 1961 to 1965. 15 minutes. I'll see you shortly. Okay, right, welcome back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk you through. Hopefully you've spent 15 minutes explaining why there was progress in the civil rights movement in the years 1961 to 1965. I'm very conscious of my really ugly handwriting, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out my answer, and what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to annotate AO1 and AO2. If I put an AO1 plus, that means I put precise fact within my answer. Let's have a little look at my first paragraph. One reason why there was progress in the civil rights movement in the years 1961 to 1965 was because of non-violent direct action. There is my AO2. What I've done there is I've just presented the reason. Okay, so although I'm not necessarily doing a lot of explanation, I've presented the reason. That's AO2. Non-violent direct action was the peaceful approach to challenge systemic racism created by Martin Luther King. King knew that if his followers were to respond with violence, to violence with violence, white Americans would be less sympathetic. Again, AO1. Okay, so what I've done is I've started my evidence with a definition of non-violent direct action. There's my first piece of evidence. So there's my first fact. Okay, this can be seen in events such as the March on Birmingham and Selma March, where authorities brutally attacked the peaceful protesters, which generated sympathy and respect for MLK's movement and the Southern Christian Leadership Council. I'm going to put AO1 plus for that. And again, loads of AO1 here, loads of great knowledge here. So there's my second fact. So I've presented the reason, I've brought in my first fact about what it is and why King used it. I've mentioned where it was used and how it was effective. What I want to do now is focusing on the focus of the question is why did it lead to progress? And I love using phrases like this led to. This led to progress because it inspired people to join the movement and to challenge systemic racism and demonstrated the movement as being morally superior. So there is again my AO2, but that is specifically how. As a result, again another great explanation phrase, 250,000 black and white as AO1 plus Americans marched on Washington in August 1963. Cheeky bit of knowledge here to challenge Jim Crow laws and discrimination. There's my Y, so the AO2Y. So what? What's important? This shows huge progress as black and white people protested together. MLK's speech was broadcast around the world, and it increased pressure on the US government to create the Civil Rights Act. And there is my so what. So within that paragraph, all I've done is I've presented the reason for my initial AO2. I've brought in two facts with loads of precise knowledge in there. I've also gone on to say this led to progress because, as a result, why did that reason lead to progress? So what? What is special about that reason? Okay, right, let's have a look at my next paragraph. Another reason why there was progress was because of the role of the media. So yet again, there's AO2. For example, I love this phrase, for example, it's a great way to present knowledge. Every key event in the movement was reported by the media, including the Freedom Rides, March on Birmingham, Selma, and the Freedom Summit. So yet again, just by presenting those names, I'm presenting to the examiner that I know that these events happened. The media shared and publicised the violent response to the peaceful protests, which generated sympathy for the movement. So again, I've got AO1 and I've got a little bit of AO2 there, is what the examiner would see. Let's have a look at my the rest of my second paragraph. Oh, I missed out a little bit there. Furthermore, in Birmingham in 1963, AO1, images of children being attacked by dogs and water hoses were shared nationally and internationally, as well as President Johnson watching Bloody Sunday from the Selma March live on TV with his family. So what I've done there is there's my second fact. So all I've done is I've presented my reason, I've presented my first fact about what I know about the media, I've brought in my second fact about what the media showed. Now, let's have a look at my explanation. And again, I've used this led to. This led to progress as the media increased public support for the civil rights movement, which in turn pressured the presidents and lawmakers to address issues of Jim Crow and discrimination. There is my how. As a result, President Kennedy and Johnson both continued and passed the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, which drastically improved the lives of black Americans. There's my why. This is very brief, this bit. This shows the importance of the media as it created sympathy for the movement. And there's my so what. Alright, and again, just like my first paragraph, I've presented the reason, I've got two precise facts, and I've got my how, why, so what, How did your reason lead to progress? Why did your reason lead to progress? So what? What is special about that reason? Okay, right, let's have a look at my final reason. A final reason why there was progress was because of President Kennedy and President Johnson. Again, AO2. For example, during the James Meredith case in 1962, there's AO1 and AO1 plus. Kennedy sent federal troops to stop the rioting at the University of Mississippi, who stayed to guard him for the whole year. There's my first fact. I also know that President Johnson was involved as he was close with MLK and passed a Voting Rights Act shortly after seeing the violence at Selma. So that's my second fact. Now you can see here where I've run out of time when I'm writing. Presidential support led to... So again, I've gone on to explain how, but I've just used the reason now. Presidential support led to progress as the movement had the backing of the most powerful person in the USA, which led to presidents pressuring key groups in the USA to pass laws. And there, you'll notice I've run out of time, so I missed out my why and so what. Alright, so you notice what I'm missing there. All I've done is I've brought in a reason. I've got two precise facts, so I've got two facts that are relatively precise. I've just done my how. So if I were to go straight back to this, right, have I got precise facts in my first paragraph? Yes. Have I got it in my second paragraph? Yes. Have I got it in my third paragraph? Yes. Have I done my so what? I have done how, why, so what in my first paragraph? Yes. Have I done my how, why, so what in my third paragraph? Yes. Have I done it in my third paragraph? No. So what will probably happen here is I will be most likely I would still be level 4, but I'm as it's 10 out of 12, as it's 12 out of 12, my suspicion would be is that this would work out to be out of 12. A harsh examiner like myself might put it as 11. A kind examiner will more likely put it as 12 out of 12, even though you are lacking a how, why, so what. Alright, but it's a really, really, really strong stuff there. I look forward to reading yours. Take care. Make sure you make a note of everything you've done. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.